guys, back again for another episode of The Wrap.
Episode 14.
14. I was just telling Levi, this is total geeko moment here, but I watch Arrow on Netflix. I was telling him that there are 23 episodes in every season, so I feel like if we get to 23, when? We're not going to if this thing. When we get to 23, we should roll over to season 2 of The Wrap. But we'll see what happens there on that one. We're here. And right now, when we are filming, it is a nasty, gloomy wet day outside. But we are here to bring some excitement.
That's right.
To bring some motivation, to bring some encouragement.
It's going to be the high point of the Thursday evening.
Well, there will be some high points. Hopefully, there are more high points than low points.
Right.
But today, we are continuing on.
I did talk to somebody.
Okay, please.
That she really enjoyed listening. So, I'm hearing from our listeners.
My mom?
No, it was not your mom. It wasn't even my mom.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so
great.
I don't know for sure if my mom even watches.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if my mom's still watching or not, but she was at least our fan for a while.
There we go.
Well, I'm glad that one person is enjoying listening.
I'm sure there's others.
And watching. I'm sure there are too. So you're always welcome to let us know. You're always welcome to chime in. If you don't want to say anything, all you have to do is give that big old thumbs up like button down there to let us know that you are receiving this and receiving it well. Continuing on today, and we are. We got 3 more weeks in the Sermon on the Mount series.
Yeah, we're about halfway through.
I think. Well, I'm sorry.
No.
This one would be 4. Because
this past one was 4.
Yeah, with
this
4
one
left.
5. The one we're talking about is 4, right?
I don't know.
Yes.
I really am lost now. But we have a few more weeks. Let's just say it that way.
I hope it's 4 because that's what I put it on last night.
I'm not really sure at this point. Yeah, it's all right. But we are making our way through the Sermon on the Mount series. We are getting there, but really digging in and getting some great stuff out of this series. Today, we get to talk about everybody's favorite topic. We get to talk about motives. Yeah, and so we talk about this whole idea that doesn't matter who you are. Every one of us is motivated by something.
Right.
And
whether we're aware of that motivation or not.
Yeah, exactly. You may not be aware of it, but you're motivated by something. And unfortunately, a lot of times, in just our human flaws and tendencies, we are often motivated in bad ways. We are motivated for selfish reasons to do things. And so that's what Jesus talks about a little bit at this point of the Sermon on the Mount, is that he... what is really interesting is what he does is he sets all this up by saying that there are several right actions that we need to take, but right actions done wrongly don't amount to anything. Yeah, you could be doing all the great good deeds that you want to and be feeling like you're living rightly, but if you're doing it for the wrong reason, it's still wrong. So it's less about what you do. I mean, that's important for sure. You want to check out what you're doing, making sure that it's coming from a place of inner purity, but it's just as much about how you're doing it and why you're doing it. And so do you have anything, like something that jumps out at you in your life that you were like, man, I really did this for the wrong reasons?
You know, I think for the longest time, giving for me was... not that I was like, I can't believe I have to give my money, but more of the, I'm just doing this because I have to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And honestly, when you do things like that become a discipline and become something that's an act of worship in your life, sometimes it does start out as I just have to grin and bear it, and I have to will myself to do this. But if you're constantly in that mode where it's just like, or what I would say a lot of times to people, I will give to a ministry, I will give of what God has given to me so that I can get something back. Right.
There's
as well,
a lot
too.
of that too.
I'm reminded the little line I had in my sermon on Sunday. It came from Kevin DeYoung, but he says that we often treat Jesus or God himself like a genie in a lamp. That if we would just do things if we just do enough things, or we just rub the lamp in the right spot, he'll pop out and give us all of our wishes, all of our dreams, and all of our hopes. And it doesn't work like that. We don't do things to get something from God. And so,
well, on a deeper level too, you know, we were talking about this a little bit before the episode here, of the fact of being up. You know, I'm very much a worship leader. Love being up on stage and leading worship. But in the last couple of years, I've really been hit with that fact of why do I want to be up there leading worship?
Yeah.
And making sure that my motives were pure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be upfront. Throughout the years, they've not always been so pure. I do like being up there. You know what I mean? Like the human nature in me
loves
to hear someone say
the applause and the congratulations,
"Oh, great job!"
and the attaboys. Want, and
yeah.
like let's be really honest here that we are human.
We are,
and there's a human sense in us that we crave attention and affection and the applause of people. Right. It's just when it gets to an unhealthy level, right, when that's all that we base our worth and our life on is just what other people say.
Well, and sometimes it is hard for us too, right? Like if it's something we know we're called to do, something that we're gifted to do, we enjoy doing, it is easy to slip into that wrong motive if we're not careful.
Yeah, and this is why it's so difficult, honestly. You know, we wish there was an easy line that would, like, a warning bell would go off or a warning alarm would go off and be like, false motives, false motives, false motives. It doesn't happen like that. And so something that we can genuinely love, leading worship, preaching, you know. So for you being, you know, having that worship bent to you, it's the same way with me in preaching. Like, do I need to be up there every single Sunday? And if I do, why?
Right.
Because I feel like people need to hear from me, because I need to get up there and have one more sermon where people say, oh, that was so amazing and great. Again, yeah, if I want to be completely honest, there are moments where it's like, that's like being real honest. Yeah. There are some Sundays or parts of a Sunday where I'm just like, that's all I'm really looking for, you know, is just to hear someone say attaboy. And it's like, that is so wrong. That is so selfish and so prideful to be sucked into that. But that's the power and the lure and the pull that I believe Satan uses in our lives. Just the thing. In fact, you know, the things that you are good at. He's like, I'm going to leverage that thing you're good at.
Well, and I think this is key for us to understand on those instances of if we're feeling that way, we're looking at that thing for our self-worth. Rather than looking to God
for what he says
we're worth.
Exactly. Which I think is so,
because those times when I've been weak and I've been like, I need just a pat on the back, a high five or something. It's because I'm feeling down on who I am. I'm not secure.
I just think how silly and how disrespectful that is to God, that all over Scripture he says, this is what you are. You are my child. You are my chosen one. You are well loved. And we just wanted to just throw that away, it feels like, to tap into the cheap thrill, is what I call it, of somebody's momentary fleeting praise. And that's what it is. I mean, it feels good, doesn't it? When somebody walks up to you and they say, here's how it often works, right? Somebody walks up to you, they'll walk up to me and they'll say, oh, that sermon was so great. And here, like, what I don't really ever get jollies off of is somebody says, that was a really good sermon, and then it walks off. It's like, those are a dime of a dozen sometimes. Like, it's just so generic. But when somebody says, that was meaningful because of this, or this particular thing that you said, and I'm like, you start to like really get kind of puffed up and like, yeah, you're right, I did say something really great. It almost inevitably seems right after that what comes after it. Someone
comes up and be like,
pop, deflates you know? And so you almost hold on to those moments where like, oh, people are saying great things about me, because you know something nasty's coming down the line. So you got to build up all those credits, because there's one big debit that's coming to take it all away.
I've known people in the past that were really good at giving you a credit and a debit in one sentence.
Those are unique people.
I don't know whether to say thank you or ouch.
Those are unique people in life, aren't they? The people who can backhanded compliment and bash you at the same time. And you just stand there in that moment, you're kind of confused, and you're like, that was really talented, by the way. How did you do that? And I don't really...
Way to go.
I don't get it. But anyways, back to motives here, and it is so tricky. I had come across this formula, and we said, how in the world do you know when you should lean into something? And I guess here's the deal. I'm not saying that people affirming us and encouraging us is wrong. It's not,
Yes,
because we're called
that
to
is
do that
never-
in Scripture.
never wrong.
But it's
Like-
when we idolize that
Right.
and we hunger and
That's the
crave
reason
and
you're
thirst
up there.
for that.
Yeah.
But I heard this great formula is this, because, okay, Ryan, Levi, when is it okay for me to put things out there and accept that affirmation? And when is it the time for me to just shut up and fade in the background and let other people get the credit? And the line that I used in the sermon was this: so often we're very intimidated and we're very scared to show certain things about our faith. And so the formula and the line that I said, and I got this, honestly, I'm not even going to take credit for it. It came from a woman named Jen Wilkin, who's at a church down in Texas, and she said this: we should show when we're tempted to hide, and we should hide when we're tempted to show. What does that mean to you? How does that resonate? And how do you kind of like word that in just a very simple way?
Going from it from a musical standpoint, this is something that anytime I've tried to felt the need to musically show off, it's usually the worst time that I've got. Like I'll show off and then immediately hit a clunker. Like it happens. It happens. But those times where you feel like I'm just going to let people see how good I really am, those are the times you probably ought to sit back just a little bit.
Yep.
Because it's not going to go well,
Yeah.
But those times where that God has gifted you and you're not sure you want to step out in that, that's the right attitude.
Absolutely. That's a great insight for sure. I myself am pretty musical and operate a lot by music, and I would say it this way. Maybe when you feel like you should just be the background vocal, but you're feeling inside of you, God's really saying, no, what you need to do is you need to kind of take lead vocal on this.
Yeah.
That's probably the time.
Yeah.
I think that many people really, and most of the people that I know, are naturally inclined more to be background vocalists. They're like, I don't want the spotlight on me. Right. I don't want anybody to see me. And I think that's just as dangerous as a showy, sometimes
it's a false humility, right?
It is.
Like, I'm going to act so
under the radar
that people are going to commend me for, because you can be humble with the wrong motive too.
Absolutely.
Like you can, and that's something that I had to learn, early on, when someone complimented me,
of how to take that.
How do you take that? How do you take that? You say thank you? I mean, careful how you say thank you, but you should acknowledge. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Compliment. And I've heard it said this way, that really when somebody is complimenting you genuinely and they're trying to encourage you, and you just blow that off because you want to be false, humility, you're really just stealing their blessing. They're just trying to be a blessing, and you're just stealing that from them. And so when somebody says something encouraging to you in the most genuine and humble way, all you could do is to say, I really appreciate that. And that really lifted my spirits to hear that. And I'm genuinely glad to hear that was a benefit to you, or encouraged you, or uplifted you, or made you think, or challenged you. Right. You've got to find great ways to respond to congratulations or applause, rather than just feigning like, oh, no, well, not me. That gets sickening as well too. So absolutely. Like, so I was saying basically is when you feel like you should be the background vocal, but you feel that the Spirit's telling you, I need to sing lead on this one, but you're fighting it with everything in you, it's probably the time that you need to show. And
generally I find that kind of thing will make room. Like that gifting will make room for you. Like it alarm bells go off in me when someone immediately comes up to me and says, I want to lead that song. You're like, why?
Which again, most people don't. Most people want nothing to do with that.
And that's why I think that kind of is a red flag to somebody. Like, okay, let's talk about this. But when someone recognizes you would be a good you'd be a good one to lead out on this.
Yeah,
that's it's almost I don't know. It's You know what I mean, though?
It's
It's almost it would almost be more of a, if you're feeling God pulling on you to do something and someone recognizes that gift in you and says,
Yep.
I think you should do this.
Yeah.
That's a confirmation.
Which is honestly most of the time how it happens.
Right.
Because again, like I said, most of the people that I've ever run across in life are incredibly shy, backwards, introverted, and want nothing and no attention on themselves. It's only when you can then start to pull. You really have to depend on good leadership to be able to pull out of people, and stuff like that. So, yeah, you need to show when you're tempted to hide, which has massive implications and applications for our faith.
Oh yeah,
Because so often we want to just hide and cower when we know that we should speak out and stand on something. And so on the opposite side too, whenever you find yourself saying, I do like the congratulations and the applause, is probably precisely the time that you should be hiding. And instead of trying to be the lead vocal in everything and make every decision and do that, you should just fade into the background and be the background vocalist. I mean, I've really tried to, I'm far from perfect in this, but I try to do a better job every single day of letting the other people around me shine, and for me to just because guess what? It's not about me,
right,
at all. Now God is calling me to do my good deeds to show and give glory to Him. Right. But man, all the time I really just feel like if I can fade more into the background and let other people step out, it's going to make the kingdom of God infinitely better. It's going to give God even more glory to see.
And it's a fine line, isn't it? Like you don't. This isn't a get out of jail free card. Like, well, I can just sit back and let other people do it. Like that's not right either, right? It's a going where God's called you to go.
Yeah,
and helping to equip people to do the same.
It's a delicate balance. It's a delicate dance all the time to try to figure this out, this idea of motives and when I need to step out and when I need to pull back. I was having a conversation with someone not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and I was really trying to affirm them, encourage them, and let them know I see leadership qualities in you and I see great things for you. And it just naturally, for a lot of us, we're just insecure. We don't see those things in ourselves. So we need somebody else to call them out. And I just kind of encouraged this person. I said, here's the deal. You don't have to lead in the way that other people want you to lead. You have to lead in the way that is natural for you and fits into the flow of what's going on around you. And you just need to exercise that and become comfortable in that, and so it doesn't, Well,
I feel like that's how good leaders are chosen. Your leadership in an area is evident, even if you're you got to be a good follower to be a good leader. I guess that's what that comes down to. There is that tango, if you will, of
if you can show me that you can play well with others,
right, and
go with the flow and do the dance, and be a part of the team, it shows me that you exhibit extremely great leadership potential,
right?
Absolutely.
And that's, you said the word team. That's exactly, like. Your motivations, if you're in it for yourself, are going to be very evident if you're in a team. Because you're not going to work well with the team. Which
is very interesting, isn't it? Right? Because we talk so often.
The church.
Yep.
To be a team. We're an organism to our.
That's why we talk so often. It's not like we just use this as buzzwords or a great thing to say, but we talk about community and being in community. And the reason for that is you could never fully. And we just talked about this actually a few weeks ago in a little bit of a different sense, but you can never fully be who God has called you to be, express yourself alone in isolation.
Right.
It always takes being around other people and being in community, being on a team to understand. And I don't think you ever truly understand your motivations until you're put on a team.
Yeah.
Sometimes being on I'd say not sometimes, but oftentimes being on a team
bring out motive.
Brings out sometimes the deepest, darkest parts of you that you don't want to see, but you need that. That's again why community is so important.
Well, and it's humbling too, because there's always someone that's going to be better than you,
right?
No matter
what are you going to do?
Doing.
What are you going to do in that moment when someone is better than you, when someone is getting the spotlight more than you, when people are getting the attention more than you? I just think this is such an incredibly important part of life, an incredibly important conversation that each person needs to have with themselves is, where do my motivations lie? Right. Where is my motive? Where am I getting that from? Why and how am I doing what I'm doing for the glory of God?
Right.
Because again, we could do a lot of stuff on the outside that looks really nice and looks very religious, but it could be very, very falsely motivated.
Yeah.
And that's what Jesus talks about so often, not just in the Sermon on the Mount, but all of the Gospels. Is the people he rails against the most are the people who are the phoniest, who are the most poorly motivated for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
You do all of these things, he says, but you're missing all the big picture in it.
You're missing the point.
Missing the major point in all of this. And it always goes back right to motives. And so, again, like I said, I think it's an incredibly important conversation for any of you who are watching right now live, but who maybe watch this whenever you're going to watch it, that you really need to ask some gut check questions is how much do you like to be seen by others?
Gut check questions and be brutally honest with yourself.
Absolutely. There's no reason of trying to cheat it or work your way around it because because it's such a human trait to want to hold on to those motives, you will find every reason to excuse away what you're doing. And you could try to hide it from yourself and everybody around you, but you're never going to hide it from the most important person, God himself.
Yeah, I'll preach right there.
Yeah, that'll preach. And so I think that you have to be, let's just be really honest. Every single person on this planet struggles with false motives. You just need to root out and to find out what your false motive is. Where are you being tripped up when it comes to false motives? And so how much do you, or where do you like to be seen by others and noticed by others in life?
That brings to mind, when David said, search my heart. Search my heart to find,
anything in me that's offensive to you, that is poorly.
And if you ask God to do that, He gonna do it.
He'll root it.
It'll be painful, but he'll
root it out. But that's what we need if we are going to become more like Christ, which I am firmly convinced is the end goal of every one of us. If we're going to be more like Christ, we have to come face to face with the darkest parts of who we are, and be done with it. And walk away from it. Say, I don't need this anymore. I don't need this part of me anymore. And so, like I said, that's a pretty good, I think, introductory talk on motives. There's so much more that we could say on that, but Jesus does a great job of talking about that. Again, if you are not familiar with where the Sermon on the Mount is, it's Matthew 5, 6, and 7. What we talked about today is really Matthew 6, verses 1 through 18, where he talks about this concept of motivation. I would say it this way in kind of closing. We were using the illustration a little bit ago about being a worship leader, but I would even say it about being a preacher, running any sort of ministry in the church.
Anything. And
this is the way I titled it when we were talking earlier this morning when I said this. If you cannot worship sitting in your seat on a Sunday morning properly, you need to be up on stage or preaching the message or being the face of a ministry and being recognized for it. That's where a real big problem comes in. What can you not do in your seat on a Sunday morning that you would need to be on the stage for? And that really begins to tell you a lot about where your motivations lie in things. So it really is, it's a worship issue. And again, Matthew 6, 1 through 18 really is about acts of worship and how we do the things that we do. When you talk about praying, giving, and fasting is what Jesus talks about specifically. It could apply to any number of things. We can do those things, and it can look really great, but it could be for the entire wrong reason.
I once heard of this praise team that actually set up one day behind the congregation, so they were all facing the same way.
Yeah.
And I thought, what a cool, if you're willing to do that and not be seen.
It's not about you.
It's not about you.
No. Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. Great thought. I like that. We're going to end on that one. Again, we are always really grateful and really fortunate that you would take any amount of time to watch these episodes. And here's a great thing: if you are a person who watches these even semi regularly, and you're like, you know what, there's a little nugget or two in there every once in a while, man, pass this on. This is information to be shared. And so if you have a friend, a Facebook friend, or what it may be, and say, hey, why don't you just tap into this and take a listen to what's going on? It's a great.
Make sure your motives are good for doing so.
Yes, please do. Make sure the motives are good. But I think it's a great way to get a boiled down version of the sermon. Now, that doesn't mean for those of you who come on Sunday morning, you'd be like, oh, all I have to do is watch a rap episode. Yeah. Nah, that's just...
Still come to church,
That's
please.
Cheating. That's cheating. You can't do that. But this would be a great content to be able to pass on to somebody else and share with them.
I think it's a good look at, it takes the sermon and really kind of pulls it down into our everyday life, right? how are we processing what we're learning?
Yeah,
what we're
making
hearing.
making it practical, making our theology practical,
Right.
and really getting it down to a down to earth view and level. So
Yeah.
again, like I said, we're really grateful, really fortunate that you would take some time to watch this. And again, as always, we wish you well, to be blessed until we come back for our next episode. So we'll see you then.
We'll see you guys.